Well, good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Peter Frank. This session is titled Basic Introduction to the New Online Lutheran Service Builder. So this is the second out of three that we're doing. I hope to get better with each one. The first time was really my first full training on the new Lutheran Service Builder, so I was a little shaky. I think I'll be better today, but I thank you very much for joining me. We've got a lot of material to cover, so let's dig in. First, I want to introduce myself a little bit more formally. I am the senior manager of marketing for church supplies here at Concordia Publishing House. I've been with our group, I've been with the publishing house for about 11 years. I've been with church software for about 6, and with Lutheran Service Builder for about 2. It used to be part of just music. Now it's all combined. So I have been around with the new version of Service Builder basically since the beginning of development, and it's been great to see it grow and be part of those discussions to continue to improve it, and now it's just exciting to release it to everybody. So I thank you for being here. If you'd like to reach out to me at any time, my contact information is on the screen. My email is the best way to get a hold of me, but my phone number is there as well. A few housekeeping items before we start. First off, I've got about 50 minutes that I'm planning for presenting. Now, there's more than enough material to cover over an hour, and sometimes I do that, but I'm going to try to keep it at 50 minutes because I want to leave those last 10 minutes for question and answers. And I know with this being a new version, we're going to have a lot of questions. So I've got a queue up there that tells me how many questions we have. I invite you to ask questions throughout. Not only does that give me the opportunity to see how much time to save for question answers, but one of my colleagues, Jim, from our support team, is monitoring those questions and can answer them during the webinar as well. So that way you can get your questions answered right away, and I'm not deviating from the outline. So feel free to ask as you go, and depending on how much time we have, I may even repeat the answers to some of those questions. We can't guarantee that all of the questions will be answered, but we always try to follow up afterwards too. So please ask away. Now, we are recording this. We will be sharing this later on today or tomorrow. If you are watching this after the fact, thanks for tuning in. I'm sorry you couldn't be here live, but this is exactly why we record them, so that people can watch them later. We know that everybody's busy and there's interruptions, and sometimes you just want to review the information a second or third time. So this recording will be available for you. Keep an eye out on your email. All right, so if you are brand new to Lutheran Service Builder and you don't know what it is at all, it is a web-based, now web-based, used to be a PC-based, but it is a web-based program that allows churches to quickly and easily plan services, create custom bulletin interiors or service plans, service folders, pardon me, export presentations and playlists, and conform with copyright requirements. And we'll go through all of those in varying levels of detail. There is a lot that Lutheran Service Builder does. And so we're going to start at the beginning and go as far as we can. I've got a nice overview that'll give you all the basics that you need to use Lutheran Service Builder. Now, I mentioned that we just moved online. That's what the real difference with this new online version is. And I want to talk a little bit about what that allows you to do. First off, it allows you to use it in multiple platforms. So our Mac users have been patiently waiting for a version that they can use without parallels or any kind of alternative solutions for getting it on their computers. So welcome to all you Mac users. It is now available for you in your web browser without any kind of installation at all. That also means that it can be used on laptops that are disconnected from the church's network. You can go to the coffee shop, use their Wi-Fi, and plan your services. You can even do it from your tablet. Now, your phone can access the service planning portion of it, maybe not the bulletin preparation and all that, but that's not something you're going to be doing on your phone anyways. So it allows you to kind of get this as part of your daily routine or your long-term planning and plan out things like readings and hymns and special events like baptisms in advance, and then go and plan the service at the appropriate time. Now, it also allows you to invite users to work together. There was no such concept of users, so everybody could access the same information. And for the most part, you still access the same information. You just do it under your own username and password. And so different people can log in and have access to different accounts, things like dual parishes, where you may not need people accessing everything for every church. We also are able to leverage web technology, and one of those things is the benefit of instant updates. I mentioned before, you don't have to install this, but that also means you don't have to update it. We'll take care of all of that for you. And so it's really low maintenance for you. You don't have to get your IT specialist to come in and install the latest version using their credentials. It just updates when we have updates. It allows us to fix any bugs quicker, and there will be some bugs as we get into this new system. That always happens with the new software, but we can fix it without you having to do anything, which is awesome. All right, now I make assumptions about my audience every time I present, and we've got a good group here today. So thanks very much for being here. Here's what I'm assuming about you. I'm assuming that you understand the basics of the liturgy. You're probably not coming in here cold on what Lutheran worship is. So there may be terms that I throw out that I don't explain. That's because I'm assuming you understand what they are. And if you have any questions, you can put them into the chat. We'll do our best to answer them. I'm assuming you're new to this online version. If you are one of our field testers who have been using it for about 6 months now, there's probably not a lot that you're going to get out of this. There'll be a few tips and tricks here and there, but for the most part, it's really just meant for those who are brand new. We just officially launched it last week. We launched it for current subscribers at the beginning of June. So most people haven't been using it for too long, but I know our field testers are the exception. So if you are a field tester, thank you very much for your service. Thanks for being here. Just know that this is probably going to be a bit too basic for you. Now, I'm also assuming that you have either an active subscription or a free trial to the new version. If you have already converted to this new version, you've been able to upload your database and get running. If you haven't, or if you're brand new to Service Builder altogether, you can still go and start a free trial and follow along as you watch. And you can do that by just going to LutheranServiceBuilder.com. Now, it's really easy, but I'll still show you. When you go to our website, all you need to do is click on this blue free trial button right here. Click on that, it'll take you to this page, and you just fill out the information. And I'm already signed in. I forgot it doesn't go to the sign in form because I'm already in there. But all you have to do is fill that in and you can get started using almost every feature. Exporting is locked down for the free trial, but everything else is available for you. All right, now it's your chance to tell me, how about yourself? I've been talking a lot and I'm not going to put you all on the line, but I'd love to learn a little bit about you. The first thing I'm going to ask is if you can tell me your name and your city and your state. That gives me an idea of where people are watching from. And the way to do that is through our chat here. It may say question for you. You can go ahead and enter that in. And what that'll allow me to do is make sure all of you know how to ask questions. It's going to fill up my chat, I'm sure, and that's okay. It'll help me see who all is here. So your name, your city, and your state. Just go ahead and enter that in. All right, we're starting to see some coming in here. Very good. Let me, whoops, I need to switch that. There we go. Now it'll sort with the latest. So Janie and Jackie from Washington, George is here, Kevin from Ontario, and then Fraser from British Columbia, Linda from Iowa, Helga from Georgia, Sue from right here in the area in DePere, Missouri. Oh man, they're just coming in too fast. I can't name everybody. So good. I'm glad to see that you've got a feel for exactly where to ask the questions. That's where you'll ask any other questions as we go. Now, the next question I have for you is what role you have in the church. And I'm going to ask this in a little bit different way. This will be a poll. So this should pop up on your screen. Please select the option that most closely describes your primary role at church. I understand that people in the church wear lots of hats. Which is the one you wear the most? All right, got a lot, already more than half have voted, very good. Looks like today, which is different than the other day, the majority are in that administrator role. Wow, in fact, yeah, we've got a large group here and over 60% are in that administrator role. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. Next is pastors at 17, church musicians at 11, and it goes down from there. So that's really interesting because the other day it was just under half were administrators, but a lot more pastors and fewer church musicians. So always fascinating for me. That helps. All right, the next question. And this is, are you already using Lutheran Service Builder in your congregation? Whether it's the new version or version 2 or even version 1, which we will be discontinuing support for version 1. Version 2 is going to continue on for a while. If you could just let me know if you're using this. I'm guessing most of you are, and so far that proves to be true. And that's okay, that's who we are sending this out to. So yeah, it looks like we've got a few here that are not using it. Those votes just came through, so thank you for being here. Very good. All right. Well, thanks for indulging me with telling me a little bit about yourself. That'll help me shape the presentation today. All right, next up, my outline for today. We're going to start by planning a service, and that means something a little bit different than it used to. Planning a service in this new version is kind of at a higher level, where you're planning the core aspects, the readings, the hymns, the rites. Then we'll start selecting the elements. Now that gets into the plan that you're more comfortable with, where it's really the meat of the service, a bulletin or the presentation. We're going to edit the formatting. We'll show you how to make it look exactly how you want it to look and save that for another time. And then we're going to export it. And whether that's the bulletin in Word or the PowerPoint, the presentation in PowerPoint, we'll even look briefly at how Concordia Organist works, where you can export a playlist. So we've got a lot to cover. Let's go ahead and get started. Now I'm going to switch my screen here, and there we go. That will go to what is the calendar view, the main place that you go as you get started. Now, you'll notice two things. First off, it's very small. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. It's going to be small for you as we go, because I know you're watching a screen within your computer screen. You can zoom in and out through your browser, or like in my case, I'm hitting Control and using the scroll on my mouse. I like to point that out for people because sometimes we'll hear the font size is too small. Well, you can change that. All you have to do is zoom in. The other thing you'll notice is that it looks kind of like its own application, where I have no toolbar or bookmarks or anything up at the top. That is a function of Google Chrome. And if you're interested in using that, it's really easy in Google Chrome, and you type the three dots and you go down to More Tools, and you can just say Add to Desktop. And when you do that, you can say Open as a window and go. And you can do that with any web page. That is a fun part of Google Chrome. But I like to clarify that because it kind of looks like it's its own application installed on the desktop, and I don't want to give that impression. All right, so this is the calendar, and you can toggle through the different months with these arrows at the top. Now, as you are going through this, in fact, let me go ahead and sign out. I am not signed into the, actually, maybe I am. Oh, I am in the wrong one again. I planned this all out from the beginning, and of course, well, I'll show you the sign-in process. And this is very similar to what you would do to get started. You can just go and create an account, but let me go ahead and sign in and see, there we go. I want to go to Resurrection Lutheran Church. I see what it is. I named my location. It comes from Lutheran Calendar. Well, that'll be a good thing to show in just a moment. Well, what I want to do first is pick the service that I'm going for. And in most cases, this is going to be on Sunday. And I can pick, like here, the 13th Sunday after Pentecost. I can go and click on any other day and start planning a service, and it'll give me those details. What's the date? What holiday are we observing? And that's nearby holidays, which within the octave of the church year. It's pretty cool how it tells you how many days before and after. It actually goes farther outside the octave, or a special occasion. So you've got all that, and then you can just name it. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to go back here, though, to Pentecost 13th Sunday after Pentecost, and I can go ahead and plan the service. Well, actually, before I go too far, let me show you what shows up here. This has been out for a while with what we call lutherancalendar.org, but you can see all of the propers listed here. So you've got the readings, and then as you scroll down, you can see the introit and the collect, the gradual, the verse. So all of that is available for quick view. And this is all mobile compatible. It works great on your phone. So if you are wanting to see what the upcoming readings are, you can quickly pull that up. I know I've used it as we've had discussions at our elders meetings or at church council, seeing what things are coming up. So it's been great. Let me go ahead then. If I'm ready to start planning the service, I click this button up in the top right, Plan this service. And this will now take me to a separate tab. I can still go back to the propers here, but there's the service plan. Now, it'll take from the lectionary the readings and automatically apply them. I can add additional readings if I wanted to. And so if maybe I wanted to add in John 1 through 10 or something like that, I can go ahead, type that in, enter it in, and add that right there. I can also, as I type that in, see some different search results and see, actually, maybe John 1 through 18 would be better, and click on that. I can also preview that. And this is going to be a little hidden at first, but once you know it, it becomes really familiar. In the top right corner, there's a show high preview. Now, we did this because not everybody needs the preview, and it can take up a lot of space. And so we tried to create more workspace by keeping this as a slide in. So you click that button and it kind of slides across the screen and takes over it. And then you can go from there. So you can see what that text is. And decide, okay, actually I'm going to go to verse 8, John 1 through 8. You can kind of see where it cuts off. So that's a great tool. I'm going to X out of that, and it'll take me back to my service plan. Hymns works in the same way, except you're searching different things. So if I go to add hymn, I can pick the hymns for the service. I don't have to know the order yet. I just have to know what I want in there to begin giving me that plan. So I can see here, okay, hymn of the day, well, absolutely, we're going to be singing that. Add the next hymn, hymns for the readings, look through and see all of these are related to the readings. So I'll select that one. There's also other suggested hymns, and this is coming from some of our other resources where we suggest hymns that fit the theme of the service or of that week. They aren't necessarily tied to the readings. So these might even be more appropriate than some of the other ones because it might touch on a verse that you were not going to preach on. So it's good to go through this and look at these. And this is one of those processes that may not be done by the same person who's doing the bulletin preparation. If you are the administrator who is preparing the bulletin for print, my guess is that you're not the one choosing which hymns to sing. So this process goes where maybe the pastor or the music director are planning out the service at this stage, which gives the administrator the information that they need to go ahead and put it all together for then review. So it kind of works together in tandem. So we'll add a few more hymns just so that we have a selection. All right, now I can pick the order of service. And right now it starts as empty. It does make you pick that before you can do anything else once you get to the bulletin view, but you don't have to pick that here, which is why we allow an empty. So you can see all of the services from Lutheran Service Book are still in there, and you can scroll down and see all the different options. But for today, we're going to start with Divine Service Setting 1. It's the one I'm most familiar with, which is why we're staying with that. Below that, you have the option to add some rites, and rites occur occasionally in the church, sometimes regularly, but it's not every Sunday that you're doing the rites. So you can see here other services or prayer rites, seasonal rites, things like baptism or confirmation, first communion prior to confirmation. There's all these different occasions. In fact, let's see, I probably should have looked at this coming up, but I bet you would have something, installation of a certified church worker, installation of a Lutheran school teacher. For August 19th, I bet there's going to be a lot of those where you can go ahead and just mark that out because the school year's starting, teachers have new calls. So you have that information that you can put in there. And then you can also put in other notes. So maybe Pastor Smith is preaching. Again, this is a plan. This isn't the service itself. That's where we're going next. All right, so there is your service plan. Before I go too far, I want to answer the question that was asked before. Where is the Help Center? In the lower right-hand corner, there's a little blue eye, and when you click on that, you can search the help articles. And so maybe, let's see, we'll just type in service, creating a custom service, changing the name or date or holiday. If I click on one of these, it will take me directly to the Help Center, which then gives me that full article, and I can go for more. That's the best way to access it. You could also bookmark this. You can just go to the home page of the Help Center and see all of the different things. There's a lot of great tools and resources that we're not going to get into today, but I wanted to make sure you are aware of that. All right, let's go back to Builder. Oh, I also want to point out, you can use the send us a message to share some questions or informations. You can share a priority there. What's the subject of your message? Type that all out. It goes directly to our support team, and people like Jim will be there to help you out. Jim's on the line answering questions in the chat. So as you go through, you also can see there's the phone number. You can get the help you need either on your own through the Help Center or by our support team there. All right, I digress. Let's move into the bulletin plans. That's next. All right, if I go here to prepare bulletin up in the top right corner, that is what takes me to the bulletin view, and my whole screen will shift because now we're really into the mix of planning out the service. So here is the view of the entire bulletin, and it's very different than what was before. If you are familiar with version 2, which I think most of you are, this actually is a combination of the two views before, where you can both insert or edit or change your elements and choose how they're displayed, not necessarily from styles. We'll get there. But you can see there, confession, absolution, hymn of invocation, and so on. Now, how do you select the things before? We talked about the service plan, but hymn of invocation isn't showing. When you click on hymn of invocation, remember we didn't pick which hymn was used in which part of the service. We just planned to use those. Your service plan comes right up at the top, and when you highlight one of them, it shows where it is in the list below, which means when you highlight down here, it says, oh yeah, good, that's already in your service plan. Go ahead and select that, and it'll plug it in. And it automatically shows how it'll export, how you'll print it. So from here, you can change how you want it displayed. So right now it shows up as text with all 5 stanzas. Maybe you want to eliminate the middle stanza and change it to melody. You can do all of that through the toolbar up at the top left. We have these different tabs. It's kind of like Microsoft Office to help you feel a little bit more familiar. I know many other tools do that as well. But that allows you to change the display right from within there. Now, there are still ways of changing it more. If you double click on it, you can change the caption. If you go over to the right, you can change the sub caption. It defaults to stanzas in this case. You can also change the defaults later on too. So you get the ability to choose how it looks. You can even say, show me nothing, just show me the reference, and you can do that too. All right, so let's keep going now. I'll show you a few other things. As we go through, you notice you can select different elements. In this case, this is the invocation, and this is the exhortation. Now, that just is put in here. It's not titled as such, but if you want to show the title, just go up here and hit caption. There's invocation, there's exhortation. You can do those from in there. You can also move it around. Now, I don't know why you'd want to in this case, but that's usually for custom elements. So you may want to move that around a little bit. All right, so here we'll add the caption on for confession of sins, and then we'll add the caption for absolution. Now you'll notice over here under absolution, there's a blue bar, and you got that below by the intro too. That is your option selector. So if I click on the blue bar and the little arrow there, it'll expand and give me one of, in this case, 2 options. Well, if you're familiar with the liturgy, which I'm assuming you are, this is not the absolution, this is the declaration of grace, which is usually said by someone who is not ordained, such as a vicar. So you can put the caption on there to show that it's declaration of grace, or you can just have that be part of what goes through and you just kind of follow along. Those who are aware of that part of worship will know that it is, but you don't have to show them the caption. But that blue option bar is really what I wanted to highlight, because in the old version, it was radio buttons. Here, because you're seeing the end result, we want to make sure that you know there are other options, but not make it show all of them in line until you choose to view them and determine which one is best. So you see, you've got that all the way through. Wherever there are options, you can choose which one to use. So this is really powerful, and what I like about this is that it's taking something that you used to kind of have to go through twice. First go through, add all the elements, next go through and choose how to display it, puts it all in one spot for you. Now, let's say you want to add things in, like we have the installation of a Lutheran teacher that we want to put in there. Usually that precedes the prayer of the church. So if I go into Insert and I go to Write, and then I choose here, prayer, right before Prayer of the Church, then I can go up in here and go and choose my teacher one. There we go. Installation of a Lutheran school teacher. From here, I can say, do I want to show all the contents or just have it say installation of a Lutheran school teacher? It depends on your church and how you do it. You may want to show all of those, and in which case you can expand and show everything. It includes the rubrics, includes verses. That takes up a lot of space. You may not need to show that. Certainly you'll want pastor to have that, or maybe he'll have his hymnal out. But that's what the rights are. They're a little bit different because in here you can see that that's almost like a separate mini service within there. So let me show you one other thing that you can do. I mentioned before that you can move things around. Let's go down here, distribution. Now I had this question last time, why would you ever delete anything from the distribution? Well, some of this you don't necessarily need. If the bulletin is meant to be held for responding, you don't usually take your bulletin up to the altar rail with you, so or the communion rail. So you might say, you might choose to take out the words that the pastor and the communion assistants are using when they're speaking. Left column. I was trying to remember what the official liturgical word for that is. Left column and right column is not it. That's coming from the hymnal. But you can just go and select an element and delete the whole thing, the whole group, that whole gray area, or just that part of it. So you can delete these different elements, change them, add them, move them, and your service then becomes exactly how you want it to be. Now, here's the thing. I just deleted the whole group. I can undo that. Just click the undo button, go in and, undo. Let me select just the rubrics, delete the rubric. As I'm making these changes, chances are I'm going to do those same things next week and the week after. Maybe not the installation of teachers, hopefully not for your sake. Hopefully that's a once-a-year thing at most. But as you're doing that, you may want to save these changes again. And so I can go up to Document and save this order of service as a custom order of service, custom liturgy. So if I hit Save, it says My Divine Service Setting 1. I'll click Save there. And now that will be an order of service that I can use on the other screen when I'm going to plan my service. So it lets you use these changes again and again. And that goes into my worship resources. We'll take a look at that in a little while. Just keep that in the back of your mind. That might seem a little bit different from what you've done before. In the previous version, it was in the lower right. Now it's up in the top left, but it makes sense with all of your tools up here at the top. So I'm going to pause for a second and take a look at the questions, see if there's any that I can answer right now. If you have any, go ahead and put in. I know the first one, are scripture readings ESV, or can you choose between different versions? Virginia's asking that. Virginia, they are all ESV. That is the official translation of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, or what we have adopted as our translation. We didn't do it. Crossway Publishers did, but it's a very good translation. That's why we only have that. That's the primary reason. There's other things with copyrights. We have not secured any copyrights for things like the NIV. The King James Version is not commonly used, and we don't have that in the format to use. So it is all ESV, and I know that disappoints some people, but there's a lot of good reasons for it. So let me just take a look. Yeah, will there be training Concordia organists? We'll get to that. All right, I'll answer some more of those in a little while. We've got a few more things to show with the service, but I want to get into presentations first. All right, so I'm going to switch, go up to the top right where it says 13th Sunday after Pentecost. This is my service name, which, by the way, I should show. If I go back to service plan, the date shows up here, but if I want to put the date in there, like maybe it's the weekend. So like in my church, we have a Saturday and a Sunday service. So I could say, August 18th, 19th. also known as the 13th Sunday after Pentecost. If I wanted to do that and save it, now when I go to prepare a presentation, up at the top here, you can see those dates are in there. So that's just a personal preference on how you name your service, but I want to let you know you can change that name. If you're doing a funeral, you may want to put the name of the person who passed in there. So that is flexible, and that's really what lets you toggle between those different options: proper, service plan, bulletin, presentation, or playlist. All right, so now we're in the presentation view. This is if you have screens in your church. And if you don't have screens, please don't tune out, because you might be able to use these for special occasions. Maybe you have you do something different for Advent services or school chapels. You never know when you might be able to use that. So I encourage you to take a look at this. There's a lot of good benefits for doing this, not the least of which is the ability to put song lyrics or hymn lyrics on a screen. Maybe you just use this for choir practice, but it's better than printing everything out for practice and then again for the service. So lots of different options. All right, so you can see on the left-hand side, it's very similar to what most presentation viewers show, where you have your slides kind of laid out there so you can click and preview them. In the same way that you can do this with the bulletin view, you can change things by just clicking on here and selecting maybe a different hymn. So if I click on that, you can see that it changes my hymn. If I go up to stanzas, maybe I'm taking out stanza 2. It takes stanza 2 out from my list. I can just say show me text only, and it'll do that. It gives you the view of the presentation in real time, which is a huge advantage and time saver that you don't have to guess how it's going to look. In the same way as before, like let's go here, Declaration of Grace. You have these blue option selectors on the left-hand side, and it kind of grays out the one that's not selected once you expand it. But I can click and select Absolution, and that changes. What's also nice is those options and things like hymns are all in here from the bulletin view. So as I scroll down, let's see, here is the installation of the Lutheran school teacher. So there are a lot of different ways that you can change the service, but those are both available, or are now available both in presentation and in bulletin where you'd expect them. So it's up to you how you use them. We know we have several, well, probably more than several, churches who are just using the presentation view. And so it might be a little bit of a pain to do bulletin and then not use it and then go into presentation. This lets you go into one spot. All right, the next thing I want to show, and fairly briefly, is what Concordia Organist is. It's what we're calling playlists in here. So if you go and click Prepare Playlist, it takes you to another view where you have your service lined elements out here. So here's the Seek where you may to find a way. That is our first hymn. Remember, I changed the stanzas around just a moment ago. I can put all of them in there. Now, what this allows me to do is download recordings, professionally recorded recordings on an organ of each of these hymns or service elements. And anything that is black or bold is available for download. And you can play it here. I can't play it for you because my sound is not set up to go through the webinar. But I encourage you to do that. If you are not a subscriber, you can still do a 10-second trial of any one of these to hear how it sounds. And they all sound really good, in my opinion. So then from there, you can export. We'll get into export in a little while. We'll do that for all three types. All right, so that is bulletin, presentation, and playlist. Let's go back to bulletin real quick. And let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, good, we're in good shape. So the next place that I want to go is the formats of the bulletin. Now remember before I said you can choose how these display, and I've already changed them around in a few places, but you can choose how it's displayed here. But right now they're all looking very, very neutral in terms of style, which is our default style. If you go to Document, you can choose your bulletin format. And for example, we have our Creative Worship format, which is a format we've used for Creative Worship, one of our other products, for years and years. It's Arial, It's got the crosses in there, the plus signs to look like crosses, and the headings are centered, and it looks different than what we were looking at before. Or you can go to something like large print, which says, oh, let's get this really big. And in most cases, except where it's been overridden for this service, you would have just text, and it makes it really easy for those with vision problems to see because it's large print. All from the same service though. You don't have to change any of the elements. You can just change the view, go and export it. And we'll talk about export in a few moments. So that's what bulletin formats are, but you can create your own. So up in the top right is what we call our settings cog. So this is farther over from the service, and there's a lot of different things in here. We're going to go to bulletin formats in just a moment, but I want to highlight you can go from here to the calendar, to search. We'll take a look at that in a bit. My worship resources, we're going to look at that too. Got a lot to cover. Importing LSBX files. So if you're using Creative Worship or you're using Let Us Pray files, that's how you bring those in, is by importing those LSBX files. Then you have your bulletin and presentation formats, and then you have account settings. I'll jump into account settings at the very end, but for right now we're going to go to bulletin formats. So I'll click bulletin formats, and it kind of takes over my screen and shows me the available formats right now. We have default, which is what we had been using. We have Creative Worship and large print, and you can preview all these. Now this is not the service I just created. This is a preview service, but you can create your own. So if I go down to new format based on default, you have to base it on something just to give it a starting point. I'll base it on default, and I'll call this Resurrection Lutheran Standard. A nice bland name like that. That allows me to do fancy or something else if I want later on. All right, now I can change how it looks. So on the far right, you have three different options. You have style, layout, and content. Now style determines what you'd expect, the style of the text. So here in their section, you can choose whether it's body, heading, caption, subcaption, rubric, or copyright. I'm going to start with body. And let's see. Okay, so you have a lot of fonts in here. I want to explain a little bit about fonts because we're now online. Fonts become a heck of a lot more difficult than when it was PC, when it was based on your PC. The reason is that your browser cannot read all the fonts that you have and show a list, or at least we haven't figured out a way, and we have tried, trust me. So we came up with a very creative solution. It will look at what fonts are most common to your platform. So if you're on a Mac, it'll show the fonts that are most common to Macs, the default fonts that Macs come through. And if it's Windows, it'll show that. But what you can do is you can scroll through and see, and these will look familiar to you. But then if you have a custom font, maybe you downloaded a Google font. My personal favorite is Roboto. You can change the font just by typing it in. Now, what's great about a browser is it can say, yes, that looks like it's a font, and show it if it's correct. So if I start typing this in and I type in robot, it doesn't show me. But if I type in Roboto, it says, yeah, go ahead, use that. That looks like a valid font, and it'll change it. Now, this will vary from computer to computer, so please make sure that the font that you are planning your service with is available on the computer where you are exporting it. They may not be the same, and they may not work the same if they're not. So we can do that. Then we can do things like change the font size, change the location. I don't think centered looks really good. Let's go all the way to the left. You can change the spacing, how much before and after paragraphs. You can change the indentation. Let's see here. You can change the line height. Yeah, some of that doesn't look fantastic. I can also change the color if I wanted to. I don't really want to do that for the body, but maybe for the rubric I do. So if I go to rubric, I can say, all right, make that Roboto as well, and go down to 8, oops, and make that a red because it's a rubric. So you can go through and change those different things. The last one I'll do is heading, and let's see, Merriweather. If I wanted to do a heading that's a little bit more formal, I could do something like that, and maybe bring it down to 18. So I'll go ahead and save this. Good. Now I'll go to layouts. Maybe my paper size is not 8.5 by 11. Maybe it's 8.5 by 14, and I do it landscape and I cut it in half and it's folded. I can go through that and I can change all those. Maybe I want to add additional margins to the top, and then make sure my music automatically scales. I can do that. I save. You can save at any point. I'm doing after each one. It's just a good habit to get into. And then content. I can say, all right, don't show any headings. Don't show any rubrics. Always show the melody. And go through here. Let's see. I can choose my default subcaptions. I can choose my, show the caption always or never for the liturgy. All of these things that you're probably familiar with. And I'm not going to go through them in great detail because it's probably best for you to go through and take a look at each one and decide for your church's primary bulletin format what you want to do. But I just want to show you some of those options. So I'll go ahead and save. So it used to be we had each one of these kind of separate settings and options that you could set. And we decided it makes more sense to combine them all into one. Now, if you're converting from Builder 2, it'll take a look at all the ones you've ever exported and give you those options when you upload your database. So you shouldn't lose anything by coming in here. All right, I'll go ahead and X out of that and go back to my bulletin view, and I'm going to go to document and switch it to our standard format. And there you go. You can see it all changed and is now what I had originally set it to be, or just customized it to be. There's a lot of different ways you can use this, especially with things like the content. You may not want to show everything for everybody. So maybe you have a large print where you don't show the melody, and a regular print where you do, and a pastor's outline where you don't show it at all because he's got his hymnal up there. Pastor always uses his hymnal. So you've got a lot of different options. In the same way, presentation formats works just like that. We've got two default options, Iron and Basic. From Basic is a good place to start. You could create a new format based on Basic. Call that Resurrection Lutheran Church Standard. And do things here like maybe we want to change the color of the background to be black and the color of the text to be white. And we want the body copy to be, let's see, we want the heading to also be white and the caption to also be white. There we go. And maybe we don't want it quite so big on the caption. And maybe we don't want it to be that. Maybe we want it to be Tahoma. And same with the body. You can start changing these things around and changing the margins. 20 is a little bit small for my taste. You can change your screen size. Maybe your height is 1080 and your width is 1920. You can do that, show how that looks. Now it might be time to increase the font size a little bit. You can change your content just like you could on bulletins and say, I'll always show the melody. So you have a lot of different options. You can save this and then use that on your presentation. So if I now go over here to prepare a presentation, that is one of my options. Oops, document, presentation format, Resurrection Lutheran Church Standard, and there we have it. So that's just real quick. I'm not saying that's how your presentation should look, but it's an option. You can see how you can modify it to meet the needs of your congregation. All right, so that we've got about 6 minutes before we get into question and answers, and that's good timing. The next thing I want to show is the search. Now, we kind of looked at the search with the readings. I want to get into search with hymns. So I should show where I went for that. Search is always available under the settings cog under search. If you have not already started planning a service, there's an icon for search. So if I go back to the calendar, I can just click the search icon up here and I can search. Now search takes over the screen when you're looking at it in this way, and you kind of get your helper text here on how to search. So maybe I want to search just Mighty Fortress. Type it in, search any of those words. I can do that for anything. I type in Christmas. Oops, I should spell it right. Fat fingers, there we go. I can type in Christmas, and everything related for Christmas will come up. I've got my hymns there, which all have the topic of Christmas. I have liturgy elements, prayers. That's kind of a broad search term. Something like Easter will also do that. But maybe I start off and say, I want to look for the topic of Easter. Doesn't matter what else it is. I'm just looking for those that have a topic of Easter. And maybe I want it to only be hymns. So I'll type in hashtag hymns. And maybe I only want it to be the author, Martin Luther. That's Easter hymns by Martin Luther. That's what shows up. So you can stack these different search terms together and really get to a narrow view of what you're looking for. And you've got all these different ways you can search. And so when you go over here for the with a clear search, you can see like holiday, author, liturgy, meteor, tune, copyright, topic. There's a number of different ways you can look that up. I can't go through all of them now, but I encourage you to try it out and see how the search works for you. Now, what I want to highlight with search is that when you go to preview hymns, and this is the same way for selecting them for our bulletin view, you get this text preview over on the right-hand side. Then you have the melody preview. And if you want to preview how the melody sounds, you hit this play button and it'll play a little MIDI file. I do want to clarify that is not what is available in Concordia Organist. What's available under Concordia Organist is far superior to that. Also bigger files. So we just put this here for a quick reminder of what that melody is. And then under info, you have all of the stuff that tells about the hymn itself. So there's the authors, the copyright, the melody name, related topics, related scripture. What I really like about this though, is you can click on any one of them. So text Martin Luther, and it'll tell you how to search for that exact same thing. So see, it puts author Martin Luther. I can go to text and tune public domain. Copyright is public domain. I can go click on Acts 2:33. It just says, hey, you can just type in that reference. So it can kind of help train you on how to search by seeing what other things are available there. So search is very powerful, but what makes it even more powerful, if you are a church that does not plan your service out in Builder, but instead just pulls elements and copies them, you can do that over on the far right, where you can hit copy, and it'll copy it to your clipboard and you can paste it somewhere else. And by doing it this way, it allows us to still track the copyrights, provide proper payment to the copyright holders, but gives you a real easy way to just copy and paste it into whatever format you want and whatever word processor you want. So that's what that is there. That's how search is used. And you, of course, still have stanzas, and you can choose to export it as a Word document. You can print it from there. All right, so that is search. Let me jump into how to export before I go too far. So I'll go back to my service, go back to prepare bulletin, export, no matter where you're at, it's going to be under document and then export. And for bulletins, you can export it to a docx file, which is for Microsoft Word or Pages or Google Docs, a rich text format, which also works with all of those. It's a little bit more universal. And then an HTML file. Maybe you want to post this on your website. You can do that there as well. For presentations, same kind of thing. When you go and click document, no, hang on one second. Presentation view, yeah, document, export, it's PowerPoint. Media Shout exporting is coming real soon. That'll be out in the next month or so, give or take a little bit. All right, and then under playlist, you can download what is called a zip file, a collection of MP3 files. So if you go to document, export, compressed MP3 files, you can then copy those to, thumb drive or to a different computer. You can even burn it to a CD if you still use CDs, but you are able to export the raw files. Maybe not raw files, the MP3 files. Raw means a little bit something different when it comes to audio and video. All right, now let me go over here and talk about account settings before I briefly show you my worship resources. I think I'm going to go a little bit over, but I can tell Jim's got a great start on answering all those questions, so we'll keep moving forward. All right, so under account settings, that's where you can put your church name, but also your locations. So what I saw before was Lutheran Calendar. I started my account with Lutheran Calendar, converted it to a Builder account. I can choose different locations. So maybe my other location is Reformation Lutheran School. Maybe I just want my chapels there. I can do that. I can also invite people from here, or I can go and delete my account. That's danger zone, that's why we call it that. But you can invite people, you can see who the users are. That's basically it. You don't have a lot of options because you don't need a lot of options, but some of these are key. So I'll save that, I'll exit out. If I go back to the calendar, you can see up in the top right, there's my church name. I think if I refresh, hang on 1 second, that may be what it takes to get my school to show up. There it is, Resurrection Lutheran School. So I can switch to that and have different services. Now, in one account, my worship resources are all in the same place, and that's the last thing I want to show you today. So my worship resources allows you to bring in custom elements, so common elements. If you go to my liturgies, there you can see my divine service setting 1, the one I modified. I can modify it from here. Oops. There we go. Just took a second to open. Some of these things are a little bit slow while I have my presentation streaming over the internet. But you can see there is a view that allows you to drag and drop and add and delete elements and save them as a liturgy. All right, I can also go into my templates, which is something I can't get into too much today, but it's pretty cool, where you can create surrounding text using the hashtag content hashtag input. So that'll be in some of our advanced training that we show later on. Now, I always get this question, and for those who don't ask the question, they're always excited when I show it to them. The last thing I want to talk about is Let Us Pray files. Let Us Pray files are prayers, prayer of the church, on a weekly basis, and it's compiled by our LCMS worship office. We make those available as LSBX files on our website. So if you go to LutheranServiceBuilder.com, scroll down to the bottom and go to Downloads, you get links for 1 year and 3 year for each week in the church year. Now you may ask, well, why do you have it so far down? Well, the reason we do is that most people only go there once a quarter or once a month, I guess is more appropriate, when they're posted. And we can send you to it automatically in your email if you go and sign up down here. So we'll send you a link, say, hey, don't forget these are now available, go download them, you can download them and use them. So if I'm looking at August 19th, 13th Sunday after Pentecost, 3 year, and I click 3 year, and it opens up a zip file for me. I'll drag and drop that to my desktop. Go back into Lutheran Service Builder and click the settings. Import from LSBX file. I'll go to my desktop, there's August 19th, Series B. Open that file up, and now it's there. Yep, this will import common element, August 19th, Series B. Click continue. Good, it's in. Now, if I go under my worship resources and I go to my common elements, actually, is it under prayer? Where did that go? Well, it's supposed to be under there. These things always happen when I present live. Let's go into my service and search for it. So, oh, I know. I'll go to Lutheran Church. My common elements. No, that's not it. All right, well, we'll just go and add it to the service. That might be a bug, or maybe I misunderstood that it's supposed to show up there. But I'll go to Prepare Bulletin. And we'll go down to my Prayer of the Church. Click on that. Oops, actually, I thought that came up with the search. Maybe I'll just go and insert element right there. August. Well, I don't know what I did there, but I'll have to figure that out. Of course, when I practice these things, it works. Sometimes new bugs show up. We'll go ahead and click OK. Maybe I hit cancel somewhere. I'll import it, hit continue. Has been imported, close that. I'll refresh it real quick. Let's see. Yeah, while I'm waiting for this, I saw the question from April. Can you type in custom elements to the service like a prayer or, for example? Yes, that's exactly what it's meant for. Let's see. Yeah, I think I probably did something wrong there, or maybe we have a little bit of bug because, yeah, that's not what I'm looking for. All right, well, I'll check in on that one. I think I may have screwed that one up. It's supposed to be there, but I wonder if the fact that I've got different locations and stuff, if that changed things. Either way, that is what my worship resources is for custom things like that. Okay, Diane said she's having the same thing. Now I know I've done it, so I wonder if a bug was introduced. I'll talk to our developers. I've got a meeting with our lead developer in about half an hour, so I'll bring that up to him then, and we'll get that fixed. All right, so that covers all of the main things that I want to go over. There's a few little things coming up. First off, I'm going to put that link up there again. If you haven't already started your free trial, go to LutheranServiceBuilder.com and start it today. It's free. Everything but the exporting is included in that. And that's because of copyrights. That's what most of the subscription is to cover copyrights of all of this information. It also covers your support team, the people like Jim who are eager and willing to help you out with anything that you need. All right, now, the way to get started to sign up for it, even if you're already a Lutheran Service Builder 2 customer, is to sign up for a time to talk with a software consultant. That's a short 10 to 15 minute call. They'll walk you through the license agreement, the conversion process. They'll turn on your access, send you all the instructions, and you'll be off and running. Now, that doesn't all happen on the call, but that's what starts it. And so we can get you up and running. The reason we did this is because we have a whole lot of customers who want to move over. And rather than saying, yeah, just call us and we'll get you up and running, our phones would be flooded, people would have long wait times, our support team would be overwhelmed with big spurts of new customers. We thought the best way to do this is to kind of ease everybody in, set up a time, we'll add you. That way you don't have to wait on our phone lines, you don't have to wait for anything other than for that time to arrive. So that's what we're doing there. I'm going to copy that and paste it into the chat so that you can click on it. There you go, and schedule a time if you haven't already done that. All right, next. Conversation with a consultant. Yeah, I talked about that. Send new license agreement, align subscription dates if needed. That's something if you have multiple licenses. They'll turn your access, send the instructions, and then answer any questions you have. So that's what that conversation is like. It sounds maybe worse than it actually is by having to have a phone call. In this day and age, phone calls seem scarier than like a text or an email, but trust me, it's not scary. It'll go very quickly, and it just allows us to ease everybody in at an appropriate pace. All right, there's my contact information again. You can reach out to our software consultants at that number, and you can reach out to our support techs through the in-app widget that I showed before, the lower right-hand corner. But for now, I want to jump into questions and answers. I did go over my time. We're already with only 2 minutes late, so I apologize for that. But let me go ahead and look at some of these that might still be outstanding from before. All right. Jim has done a great job of answering a bunch of questions. I know he's not able to get to everything, and that's all right. So we answered the questions about the readings. Will there be training for Concordia organist? Is an unanswered one, but I did answer that in there. So Kurt, I hope that helped you out. We'll have more detailed training available in other ways, but just a quick reminder, if you are going to your service and going to prepare a playlist, it pretty much does it for you based on what you've selected. All you have to do is export. Now, we do allow you to insert other things if you wanted and kind of plan your service here. That might be helpful for something like a shut-in visit if you want to plan out a template or a set of files that you'd use over and over again. You could do that and not have a defined service for it. So there's the answer to that question. Is Let Us Pray available? Diane, I mentioned that before. Absolutely, it is supposed to be available. For whatever reason, I'm having trouble, so I'll find out what's going on and we'll add that in. And like I mentioned before, there's going to be some bugs as we release this, work out the kinks. It's the beginning of it. Can't be perfect at the start, but the key thing is that we work to actively fix it quickly, and that's what'll happen here with the Let Us Pray. So we'll get that up and running. It may have been something I did too. All right. Let's see. Oh no, I just saw something in here. I hope this wasn't going on the whole time. It says getting audio from another source sounds like a children's Bible message dramatized as well as the webinar. I don't know what that could be. I hope no one else heard that. Let's see. Not seeing anything else on that. So I am very sorry about that. Who was that asked? Sharon, sorry about that if that was from us. I didn't hear anything. Sometimes my microphone picks things up from other rooms that I can't hear with my ears, so I'm hoping that's not what that was. All right, if I want a hymn with a doxology for opening hymn each week, can I easily repeat such a search? Don is asking that one. I think so. I would think that probably something with Trinity, or maybe you could just do the doxology, praise God. So you could start off with just the doxology, praise God from whom all blessings flow, and add that in. You might want to make a custom element for that, or if you're looking for a specific one, that's probably your best way of doing it, by putting that exact phrase in, or maybe you want to do a little bit more, praise God from whom all blessings flow. Yeah, so there you could do that. That has them. I think that's probably the best way to do it. That's not a lot of different options though. So, but you do have that common doxology you can add in there. All right, let's see. Janie, you asked, are you able to export the trial version? I did mention this before, but no, you cannot. That you do require, it does require a subscription to export. How long does the trial last? Last for as long as you want it to. We don't have an end date on there, so it can be very helpful for service planning and searching. It's just the exporting part that we restrict. And then your next question is about pricing. What is the cost of the online program? It depends on your church size, but we do have our pricing available on our website. And so you can go through here and see this is the subscription pricing, and then add-ons such as the hymn license, which allows you to export the hymns. That is an additional fee, or Concordia Organist. So all of those are available for you there. All right. Let's see. Have you considered adding a prayer before worship that goes along with the theme of Sunday? Helga's asking that. And we do have that as an option within our creative worship. There's a number of different things. Creative worship is a tool. I can show you that. It works very well with Builder. If you go to music.cph.org/creative-worship, you can try a free sample service. And one of the things is what we call As We Gather. It's not a prayer, but an explanation of the theme. But there are prayers within there. That's just one that's meant for before the service. So I'd encourage you to take a look at Creative Worship. You can try a free sample service and see what all is included with that, including the Builder files. All right, let's see what else we got. I think I skipped over a few. We'd like to insert scriptural citations for the service components. For example, Sanctus is based on this. All right, so if you go in to, let's just go up here, and this will probably be the last question I answer, because I think just about everybody has gotten theirs. I think I may have missed a few, but Jim has done a great job of answering those. So last question for the day, how do you add a scriptural citation to the different elements? If you go up under, we'll go to bulletin formats right now. We'll go to mine here. You can set this by default to say under let's see, all propers. You can say subcaption, yeah, and reference is in there already. For individual elements, I don't know if we have that as an option for all components. Certainly propers make sense, but let me go in here and switch back to bulletin view. Shirley asked that question. I don't know if I said Shirley's name before. Let's see, invocation. If I go in here and type hashtag ref, REF, hashtag, doesn't look like that's in there. Which one did you have? The Sanctus. Let me just go ahead and insert the Sanctus. I took off most of my captions, so insert. Go right here. Sanctus. And then if I change that from page to reference, I believe it should show. Yeah, there we go. So I think it defaults to being the reference in the hymnal, but you can change it to by typing in hashtag REF hashtag or pound, depending on which generation you're from. It can show the scripture reference for that. So there's lots of different options in there, and that's in our help system on how to find some of those things. We'll continue to do these trainings to show that off. All right, I think just about everybody got their questions answered. If not, we'll reach out later on, but I am well over my time. So thank you again for joining me today. Thanks to Jim for answering those questions. Feel free to reach out to us at any time with any follow-up questions. And again, the help system is available as well as our support team. So thanks again. Have a great rest of the day.